Hello, folks. What's going on? Welcome to the March 6th edition of the Go With The Flow podcast. Nick Phillips, joined only this week by Kevin Bartman. We've got a little action-packed episode this week. We actually bring on Megan McDonald from Let Me Be Frank Sports, our Denver/Colorado Avs correspondent. So we bring her on for a fun interview at the end of the show this week. But Kevin, how you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. We had a pretty busy week, action-packed, like you said, since we last talked. So I'm ready to get into it.
Yeah, let's get into it. And I'm sure a few folks got in one at the Nassau Coliseum tailgate for the return of John Tavares. So obviously, you guys have probably, at home heard this topic, beating a dead horse, but we haven't covered it on our show yet. So hopefully you are interested in hearing our perspective on it. So we're going to lead off the show with that. But obviously, everyone knows the story of JT, stayed with the Isles, first 9 years of his career, goes back home to Toronto, all that good stuff. And the Islander fans were none too pleased about him spurning the organization and choosing to go play at home, where he had that famous pic of him in his Maple Leaf pajamas. So, Kevin, I don't know if you want to start off with your opinion on this one. I'll just say quickly that I think the Islanders, I don't think a lot of us saw this season coming that they're having. Obviously the Trotz edition was huge, and we knew the promise with Barzal, but, I don't think a lot of teams saw, an Islanders squad that, as we stand right now, they're first in the Metro. So they might be even bigger of a wagon with JT, but who knows? But just want to hear your thoughts. I don't blame them, but we can get into it more. But I want you to get your 2 cents in.
So, I guess my immediate thought is the booing of him being booed and being treated like shit that whole game, and right when he came onto the ice. It's natural. Like a lot of people were like, oh, come on, have a little more class than that, or he did nothing wrong. He played hard for your franchise for 7 or 8 years, whatever it was. Like, this guy owes you nothing. And while that's true, you got to realize it's sports. Fans are going to boo, fans are going to be pissed. That's just the nature of the beast. So I don't really fault Islanders fans for being pissed off and, being super emotional, because it's an emotional night. They're back in the Coliseum playing a really good team against, their former franchise players. So, emotions are going to be running high. And not to mention, their team is really good, like you said. So I think it made a bigger statement that they beat them. What was the final score like?
6-1.
6-1. That's right. So,
and I don't think he got a point in the game. They didn't let him score. I don't think he factored in the score sheet either.
Yeah. So I mean, I feel like it kind of just makes it there wasn't any hostility in terms of the actual game. There's no ill will from what I can tell from any Islanders players towards Tavares. So it just makes a bigger statement that they just sort of, have the Maple Leafs in their barn and just kind of beat the wheels off of him. So yeah, that's kind of my take on it. I have nothing wrong. Fans throwing shit at him and stuff like that, that's unacceptable. I think that's just kind of a scummy thing to do, no matter, what the situation is.
The snakes on the ice were kind of funny, but throwing I don't know if they threw beer at him once or a jersey.
They threw I don't even know what it was. I think someone threw I can't remember, but just throwing stuff at players is obviously uncalled for. But I don't blame the Islanders fans. They have a really good team. They're trying to, I guess, their way of saying, oh, we don't really need you, John Tavares, because I don't know. I mean, they're a really good team without him. So might have something to do with the new head coach.
Yeah, but they're fucking nuts if they wouldn't take that guy on this team right now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't disagree. But, I mean, yeah, it's, Matt Barzal gets a bigger role on this team now. So, yeah, I mean, that's sort of my take on it. It's just sports. Players are going to get booed. They're going to hate him, but, life goes on.
Yeah, we got to see if the Isles will keep this band together, with, I think, Anders Lee, Jordan Eberle, and Brock Nelson, if I'm not mistaken, are all unrestricted free agents at the end of this year. So Lou Lamoriello, who they also brought in along with Barry, and then who thus brought in Barry Trotz. Obviously, they've got a nice, they got a decent foundation down there, and they've got some great hockey minds involved with the organization. Obviously, who knows how much longer Lou's going to stick around the game. I mean, he's not the youngest guy in the world, but yeah, I mean, I think I agree with everything you said. And I mean, I think a lot of Islanders fans, part of their anger is, well, if he knew he was leaving all along, why wouldn't, I wish he would have told, I wish he would have told somebody, because we could have traded him and gotten some assets back for him, except like we missed the playoffs, right? We lost him for nothing, right? So I can see where people might be disappointed about that, but I think it's also understandable that the guy might have been really fucking torn. Like he might not have known at the trade deadline last February. Like he might have said, well, I might want to stay depending on who they hire, what I hear, what the plans are for the new arena. Like there's probably a lot of factors that led him to say, I don't really know. And you're the Islanders. If there's a 50-50 shot, the guy's going to re-sign with you. I mean, you don't pull the trigger on the trade. So, I mean, hindsight's 2020. They probably wish they would have flipped them at the deadline. But so maybe that's why some Islander fans are upset. But I think just overall, Tavares is a very well-spoken, nice guy, was involved in the community. Like to act like he's like the Antichrist was a little bit much, I thought. But I don't think he ever said anything controversial. I mean, as Sean Avery said, never got arrested, right? So, I mean, I don't think he left in a classless fashion or was ever. There was never any negativity surrounding him when he was, part of the team. I think, if anything, he kind of willed he willed the team to the playoffs a couple times when he didn't have a great supporting cast and when they had, arena woes and, ownership issues and things. So, I mean, I think maybe the fans could be a little more grateful, but yeah, fucking right, boo him. Like at the end of the day, he still chose to leave. And he basically said, I think Toronto's better than you guys. And that's just who the fuckers in New York are, right? That's Long Islanders. They should be who they should be. So I don't blame them for booing and shit, and they shouldn't be chastised for booing them. But, yeah, I think crossing the line, throwing stuff. But how about Toronto, the Air Canada Center, giving them a standing ovation? We're so happy to have you. Thank you.
Hated it.
Did you?
Oh, my God. That was so
a nice
dumb.
gesture, but, yeah, I mean,
he got booed. He's a professional athlete. That happens.
Yeah. Right.
He
didn't survive a gunshot wound,
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is a pretty Canadian thing to do, though, to give your player a standing ovation just because he got booed. They're oh, it's okay. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Sportsmanship. No.
That was pretty dumb, though. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Yeah,
for sure. So I think the next thing we want to talk about was a couple days ago, John Tortorella. I think, you know what? I'll first, before I even say it, I think Torts has kind of somehow kind of flipped the perception on him. I mean, I think a lot of people really thought he was just kind of a dick, a couple years ago, and especially when his New York tenure, and we even made fun of him on our podcast in the early stages. We didn't think he was, when he was coaching the USA World, what was the tournament?
World Cup of Hockey.
Yeah, they went 0-3, and it was just a blink of an eye, and Torts' USA squad was out, and we were wondering, the guy's had a couple coaching gigs. I think he coached Vancouver for a year too, right? So he went from, didn't he not coach Vancouver? So he was on the Rangers. I'm going to look this up real quick. Yeah, he was with the Canucks. But people forget that. But now he's with Columbus, obviously. And he had a really interesting quote, talking about the overtime situation. So we're actually going to play it before we get into it, so the folks at home have a little context.
Get rid of the shootout, just play the 3-on-3, and so a team dies. I think that's where it should be. It's exciting. Yeah.
So, yeah, obviously, as you could hear, the man obviously thinks the shootout is a gimmick or just much prefers 3-on-3. Kevin, we'll let you start off, man. Do you agree with Torts here? Do you think 5 minutes for 3-on-3 is enough? Or do you, like you said, do you want to just see him buzz around the ice with a lot of, let the skill players do their thing until they can get a winner in the regular season, of course?
Yeah. I mean, As a fan, yeah, you want to see the 3-on-3 because it's like probably one of the more exciting things in sports in terms of like a regular season game. I mean, I guess like one concern could be like maybe you're burning your players a little bit more just have by simply having them out there longer. But let's be honest, like if it's like a 10-minute overtime or something, like they're gonna score. It's 3-on-3 hockey. Like it's not like they're gonna be playing 20 minutes extra of hockey. Like if you have it extended 3-on-3 overtime, like 10 minutes or say, most of the time, like a goal takes like a minute and a half maybe. And I guess, obviously that doesn't happen in a lot of cases too. But I think as a fan, it's more enjoyable. It's better for the game. Hashtag good for the game. With a extended 3-on-3 overtime. Um, but I guess I'd like to get a player's perspective on it too, because if I had to guess, they'd probably feel similarly. Because the shootout is, I think it's a pretty shitty way to lose a game. Although, I mean, you still get a point. I guess that's the same case in overtime too. But I think players would prefer to, leave it less to chance, so to speak. I guess that's more the case in a shootout. Whereas I guess if you win in overtime, it's more deserved. But I guess that's my sort of quick take on it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I agree with everything you said. Honestly, it'd be nice to have differing opinions for entertainment purposes, but yeah, man, I think there's plenty. I mean, the argument for the shootout is, ooh, you get to display some skill. Well, if you have a 3-on-3 going there, there's plenty of room to maneuver and show off your skill, your speed, right? And there's plenty of 2-on-1s and breakaways anyway. So I think 3-on-3 is good in that aspect. And the one thing that 3-on-3 still has is a little bit of a team element, right? Whereas shootout, you're kind of it's just one guy mano a mano, right? Just 1v1. And 3-on-3, I mean, you're on the ice and you got two other guys to consider, and so I think it kind of takes away the team element by having a shootout. But I guess going off your point about like ice time and that being a concern with guys getting extra ice time is, I mean, in these 3-on-3 overtimes, the coaches shorten their benches. I mean, like basically only the top 6 forwards and the top 4D are basically in consideration to, see the ice, because I mean, let's be real, like you're not going to get your fourth line caught out there against Riley, Marner, and Matthews, right? So, or something like that. So, I mean, if you have a extended overtime and the game lasts long and you're just kind of burning your top end guys and it's the next night you got a game, like that could be like a little bit of a concern. But, I agree wholeheartedly with Torts, and I'm sure most of the hockey community does. And I think the players do too.
Speaking of rule changes, I saw this. I don't know if they're actually like moving forward with making this change, but um, at the start of a power play, they are thinking about allowing the coach of the team on the power play to choose which side of the ice the initial faceoff is on, right? So, like for example, yeah.
So then you'd flip on the next whistle?
What do you mean?
Wait, hold on. Sit.
I'm saying so. All right. So, example, like the Capitals. This is the example that I saw on Twitter.
Okay.
If the team they're playing, if they're on the power play, and they get a face off in the the opposing zone or neutral zone wherever, they're gonna want to set up on the right side to open up that slot on the weak side for Ovechkin, for example. Like it's a little more strategy involved. Whereas if you have someone like an Ovechkin who can, you can put on the weak side of the ice and put him, right where he wants to be. There's a little element of strategy in that. So I thought that's a really good idea. I don't know about you.
That's actually really unique. Yeah, I mean it's subtle, but it can make a big.
I'd probably have to put a little more thought into it because I'm sure there's other other scenarios in which it's, a little disadvantageous. But I think it's a really interesting idea.
Yeah, and I think the idea right now is I can't say for certain, but I feel like the NHL just in general, they're looking for ways to increase scoring without making the goalie gear smaller and without increasing the size of the nets. I think they're looking for ways to, increase scoring. Like two ideas. I have are to do the long change in the first and the third period, right? So, obviously that, it's shitty for when you're caught in your own end, but it's harder to make line changes, on the defensive side of the ice, because, your bench is farther away. So, we only have that obviously in the second period right now. So why not make long change first and third period, short change second. And then another idea I've seen tossed around, and I think Edzo brought up during a Blackhawks game, was like a delayed penalty. Like when a team scores now on a delayed penalty, it just negates the power play. But I think it'd be really interesting if you score on the delayed penalty, if you still got the power play. That would be kind of, like how often really do we see teams score on a delayed penalty? Like it obviously happens, but I don't know if it happens just so frequently that it would be like team would be able to double dip potentially a ridiculous amount of times. I don't know if either of those things are interesting ideas.
When I first started watching hockey way back when, that's how I thought it went. Like if you score, this is back when I would like when I was playing video games with my friends or something. If you score on the power, like a delayed penalty, I thought it made sense that you'd still get, the power play. But lo and behold, that's not the case. I do think that's a good idea. I actually really, really like that.
Yeah, like everyone says, well, make the nets bigger or make the back of the net shallower to allow for playmaking. And I don't know, for some reason, I think the NHL's hell-bent on leaving the nets as they lie right now. And the goalies are obviously going to piss and moan if they got to shrink their gear. So, yeah, I think that's what we got for rules changes. One quick note we wanted to make as well is that Ryan Kessler of the Anaheim Ducks obviously came to fame with the Vancouver Canucks and Team USA Olympics. But, he just played in his 1,000th game. So just immediate thoughts of Kessler. Obviously, Kevin, you and I are we respect, I think, how hard it is to play 1,000 games in the NHL, and he's been a good player for a while. He's obviously kind of slowed down with the offensive production since he's gotten, into his 30s. And as Blackhawk fans, there's obviously the Canucks rivalry. And then when we played Anaheim in the conference final, he said, "Oh, I don't know how a team can sustain so many hits." So he's a guy we like to razz on, but we'd be kind of dickheads to not mention that he played 1,000 games.
Yeah, and the fact that we hate him must mean he's doing something good. Like he's undoubtedly one of the better two-way forwards that we've seen, in the past 10 years or so. He's won a Selke, didn't he? He's got one Selke. He's always up there, year in, year out. The last few years, he's been riddled with injuries. So, it's kind of hard to see such a great player go down a little quicker than expected. But, yeah, he's kind of a bastard. Don't really like him that much as a player, but he's really good. And he contributed to some of the best playoff series I've seen as a Hawks fan. So, yeah, I guess congrats to him.
Yeah, he's been involved in plenty of memorable Game 7s, obviously. Stanley Cup with Boston. I guess that wasn't really that memorable because Boston kind of blew him out in that game. And he actually just said that that series still haunts him to this day. And how could it not? He hasn't been back. But yeah, Hawks Ducks Game 7, and the 2011, the year they went to the Stanley Cup where the Hawks were down 3-0, made it 3-3. Then they exercised the demons with the Burroughs OT goal. Fuck, Chris Campoli used the glass. But, props to Ryan Kessler. Team USA. Was that him? One of my favorite Doc Emmerich calls was when USA and Canada in Vancouver for the Olympics played they played a game against each other before the gold medal final, which ultimately Canada won, but where he had that diving play with the empty net they beat Canada 5-3. It was at the very end, but honestly, one of the coolest plays. Canada, as the goalie pulled, he's a great defensive forward. They put him out there, with the goalie out, and there's a 50-50 loose puck, and he dives out. Go look it up at home, folks. It's awesome. As an American hockey fan, we all want to see a gold medal, and then we don't need to get into the wormhole of how NHL is participating in the Olympics right now. But that first game where they beat Canada, like Kessler, just a balls to the wall, total effort play, like just really, I think, represented like everything he brought to the table. I mean, people might not know about it because it wasn't like an NHL play or in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and it's easy to forget it like a random Olympic game. But I mean, honestly, that's a individual play that will stand out to me when I think of his career as that goal in the Olympics.
Yeah, when you first brought up the Olympics, I thought this is off topic, just totally random, but the only like memorable call, I guess, of the Olympics for Team USA is Zach Parise scored an overtime goal. That's pretty much it. But
or no, they tied it, and then
you're right.
And then Crosby on Ryan.
God damn it, yeah.
Yeah, Kane in front and Parise cleaned up the garbage.
Yeah. Shit, but yeah. Anyways, yeah, I guess props to Ryan Kessler. Really good player. I do have to have a bit of a soft spot for him. Being an American. He's an American boy.
Yeah.
Serves his country. So
yeah,
it's all right.
Thanks for being a trooper and getting through a Ryan Kessler tribute, though. I appreciate it. So let's talk about. We actually brought up. Let's talk about the Blue Jackets a little bit here again, because the reason I want to bring them up real quickly. I mean, we covered them, obviously with Duchesne and Dzingel, and then not trading Bobrovsky and Panarin, but for that same reason, I want to bring them up. They're on the outside looking in on the playoffs this year, right? I mean, this is just not good. They are 2 points behind Montreal. Now, Montreal has a game in hand. So, like, obviously Columbus, they're not out of it. They've got bad at math, but they got, I believe, 16 games left. I mean, can we just quickly talk about how colossal of a failure this is going to be? I mean, when you assemble that many good players and you basically go for one run and you're trying to get your fan base a playoff series win for the first time, essentially, that's what I think Jarmo and the organization were kind of going for with this one. I mean, you can't miss the playoffs, and the teams that are behind are not bad at all. I mean, they're behind Montreal and they're behind Pittsburgh. So Pittsburgh's the first wild card right now, and Montreal as well. And Pittsburgh and Montreal each have 79 points. So Carolina has jumped up in the Metro to that third spot. They play Washington if the playoffs start today, but yeah, right now Columbus is on the outside looking in, and really, there's 9 teams that can make the playoffs this year, and Columbus is the 9th team, and they're on the outside looking in right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's the only way you could say is like if there's still a lot of time left, like you said, but it's an absolute failure. I mean, the manner in which they went all in, it's not like they picked up like a Mark Stone or like a marquee player. I guess Matt Duchesne. I don't know if you would consider him like a marquee player. He's a really good player. But, yeah, because they clearly could have went the sell side and, sell Bobrovsky, Panarin, and sort of just set themselves up better for the future. But no, they did the exact opposite. They're like, nope, we're going to win a playoff series. And if they don't get into the playoffs, do you fire? You kind of have to.
Do you shit can Jarmo?
Yeah.
Do you shit can him? Like, that's our favorite word to use, but I mean, it's kind of livelihood, but seriously, you push your chips all in.
Yes.
You miss the playoffs. You get nothing back for Panarin and Bobrovsky. They lose.
You have 7 picks in the next 2 years. Like, you're absolutely fucked.
Yeah, and right now, Dzingel and Duchesne are not signed. Like, this is a mess. That is a mess.
You got to think, like, the last thing on their minds would be so they missed the playoffs. It's just sort of like a ripple effect or a domino effect.
Well, Carolina is on a run right now.
Yeah, I mean, they could very well sneak in, but
ooh, and we got our what the puck, which we'll bring up in a second here.
Yes, but I mean, on the chance that they don't make it, like, you can't tell me Columbus is going to be a very desirable place to stay if you're Matt Duchesne or Ryan Dzingel. You got to be thinking, like, because they're not going to be going like their trajectory is going pretty much straight down
Well,
after this year.
I mean, the way you look at it is they're going to go, well, we couldn't even make the playoffs with Panarin and Bobrovsky. Now, now what?
Yeah.
I mean, Duchesne, I think he's got a kid. Like maybe, he could he might be looking at more than just.
Yeah.
I mean, he could be like, oh, well, Columbus, Ohio might be, might have great schools or great for a family. But I mean, shit, Ryan Dzingel could be like, well, hell, I can, and maybe.
Ryan Dzingel, he went to Ohio State. So like, I guess you can make a better case that he could stay because he has a lot of friends and family there. But Matt Duchene, yeah, like you said, he's got a wife and kid, a kid now, I think. So like,
yeah,
I think there's a lot when you can have the choice of where you want to go. Like, I find it hard to believe you're going to want to stay in Columbus, Ohio. No offense to listeners in Columbus, Ohio. But
yeah, I just was kind of shocked that the second that Duchesne trade didn't go down, there wasn't like an extension in place. Like I think we expected like what happened with Mark Stone to happen with Columbus. Like, oh, well, they got Duchesne, like, well, they're going to sign him. And now maybe since they pick him to sign long-term because they couldn't get Panarin done, maybe now they make a run with Panarin, which will look dumb if they miss the playoffs or don't go far, but they can either do that or now they can trade Panarin and still try to make the playoffs. But now they might miss the playoffs and not sign Duchesne. So, I mean, yeah, they've got a nice team there. They've got a good foundation. You've got Werenski, you've got Dubois, you've got Seth Jones. You've got Atkinson at forward. Like, that's a team with some talent, but, man, you're going to lose a lot of the pieces that are on this current squad if you miss you're going to lose a couple anyway, it seems like. But, man, this is going to be a real clusterfuck. It's going to be a big mess to clean up if they miss the playoffs. That's all I'm going to say. Just crazy. But shall we move into What the Puck, Kevin?
Yes, we shall.
All right. I want you to go first. This one's great.
All right. So mine is.
It was good.
This doesn't have anything directly to do with hockey, but it's loosely affiliated to it. So. A little more pop culture front, but over the weekend at who are they playing? It was Rangers.
It doesn't matter for this.
It doesn't even matter because Pete Davidson stole the show. He was
fucking
10 rows up, smooching all game with Kate Beckinsale, and I don't have words. Like. Pete Davidson, I'm sure he's a really funny guy. I don't find him that funny personally, but he is a really weird looking dude. And Kate Beck, he's like 25?
He's got butthole eyes.
He has got butthole eyes, yes. He's like 25. Kate Beckinsale is 45. Unbelievably attractive.
Oh, yeah. She's like a fine wine. She gets better with age.
Oh, absolutely. And I just don't get it. Like, first of all, the picture of them like making out and just like licking each other's tongues, that was gross. I wanted to puke.
All right, Kevin.
And like, it's gross. I'm sure the people around him are like, all right, like,
not a PDA guy.
Trying to watch some hockey or not? Not really.
Yeah, I'm just trying to watch the fucking rags who are a shit show.
Especially when you're like when they're just licking each other. That's really gross.
Well, in fairness, those seats at MSG are cheap, I bet, in that section. So.
Yeah. But yeah, unbelievable. Like, so I don't know what the puck is. Like, I'd say Kate Beckinsale.
I mean, what the puck? You're just stunned. It's just stunning.
I mean, it shocked the world.
I mean, the guy. First of all, elephant in the room. Guy must have a fucking hammer.
He's got a python on there.
Guy's got a big wrench.
He has to. Like, there's no other way. Ariana Grande.
I mean, it pays to be funny, and it pays to have money, I guess, right? So she probably finds it funny, and yeah. But yeah, they went to the New York Rangers game, and they essentially turned it into a fucking hands play hotel room. I don't know how to describe it. It was just like yeah, it had to be like, holy shit, I'm sitting next to Kate Beckinsale and Pete Davidson. But then after like a period and a half of it going on, you're like, you know what, like. Why don't you just go back to your fucking penthouse and just
right
do the deed and just I don't want to see it when I'm trying to watch the boys out there, you know?
And not to mention, like he was engaged to Ariana Grande. You might have heard of her like a month ago.
Yeah.
And then that ended, and now he's just rebounding with fucking Kate Beckinsale. Don't get it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Probably.
What do you got?
I'd even go as far as saying she might be the hottest celebrity out there that's over the age of 40. I mean, that's a bold take, but she's in the running. Like,
up there for sure.
Yeah, definitely up there. So
that's a whole other debate.
Yeah, she could be his mom, but whatever. So my what the puck is Jack Edwards, and the boys at Chicklets absolutely flamed him. He's for those that don't know, he's the is it Nesson or Nesson? I'm sure they call it Nesson out in Massachusetts, but they've been their play-by-play announcer for many years, and he doesn't even try to hide it. He's obviously a big-time homer. Bleeds black and gold, just super zealous about the Bruins organization. So back in, I'm trying to think how long ago this was. He went on a rant regarding Dougie Hamilton when the Whaler or the Carolina Hurricanes, obviously are a relocated franchise from Hartford, Connecticut, who were the Hartford Whalers, and they brought back Whalers jerseys this year, for a couple special games. So they wore them once in Carolina, and I think Jack Edwards went on during a random Bruins telecast, was roasting Dougie Hamilton because Dougie Hamilton was wearing, number 19, which was a retired number in Hartford, and that number should never be worn on a Whalers sweater again in live NHL action. And I think he also said something along the lines of, no offense to Dougie Hamilton, he's a nice player, but he shouldn't be the guy wearing a retired number. He's not at that superstar level where it would maybe be acceptable for such an atrocity to occur. So Edwards, now this guy, I don't know what's going on with him and the Hurricanes, but trying to pull up the clip here. So yeah, here we go. We're gonna do a little Jack Edwards clip. A little context here. The Bruins were down by a score of 3-1, pretty, I think, decently late into the third period. Pot a couple goals. They go to overtime. The Carolina Hurricanes are wearing the Whalers jerseys in Boston. Obviously, old rivalry. Just right up the highway there. So Jack Edwards, I don't know what his deal is with the Whalers and all this stuff, but just this call is honestly electric. I think he was kind of like the old man yells at cloud thing with the whole Dougie Hamilton thing, personally speaking, but y'all got to listen to this electric call by Jack Edwards. This is my what the puck, because I don't know what's going on with him and the Whalers.
Crazy closes, tries to scoop it over the glove side, and McElhenney makes the save. DeBrusk steals from Falk. DeBrusk spins in middle. Crazy scores! The Bruins come from 2 down, fend off Carolina, and strip the whale of its blubber.
Strip the whale of its blubber. Any thoughts on Jack Edwards? This guy's been on a little bit of a run recently. And yeah, with the whole Zdeno Chara Vander Kane fight, he had some choice words about Haley and Vander Kane, and this guy is just a blind homer, but I gotta admit the call was electric.
It was an electric call. It reminded me of, I can't think of his name off the top of my head. He was the old, I don't know if he's still the announcer, or radio guy, or is it TV guy for the Florida Panthers?
Oh yeah, the guy who would yell like,
he used to just give like
Oakland booty.
Yeah, he would just quote like random movies.
Mom, the meatloaf. I think it was Randy Moeller, right?
Randy Moeller, yes.
Yeah.
Randy Moeller.
Moeller. Randy Moeller.
If you haven't, go on YouTube, look up Randy Moeller Florida Panthers goal calls. There's about like 30 videos. Just watch them all. They're great. Anyways, that's what it reminds me of. What did he say? Strips of the blubber.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, it's like sounds like
that's what Jack said. Yeah, it's the closest thing that it reminded me of, like just an absolutely absurd call, really electric call, a lot of emotion. But yeah, I kind of like it. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
It's a Bruins telecast, so like it's not the end of the world that he's a blind homer. Like, that's my take.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Randy Moeller. Mom the Meatloaf. Was great. LA face with an Oakland booty, and he's like, "Oh, good for you." He's just got him all ready.
When he was just like waka waka.
Yeah, waka waka. Yeah, there's a new
shit.
sheriff in town, and his name is Reggie Hammond. Yeah.
Oh,
good. Or the
I'm going on a wormhole just watching these.
Oh yeah, or the Tampa Bay Lightning radio announcer Dave Mishkin, the Scream tribute. That's an all timer. all time, like spent way too much on YouTube hockey rabbit hole. But yeah, guys, yeah, Jack Edwards have a couple. He's had a few interesting weeks. Let's just say that he's scorned a few people, but whatever. So that's it for Kevin and I just shooting the shit solo. We are now going to end our show by passing on to Megan McDonald of Let Me Be Frank Sports, our Avs correspondent and blogger. So we bring her on for her take on the Avalanche as they move potentially into a wild card spot / into an offseason where they missed the playoffs after quite a bit of promise after their first round series, which was pretty entertaining with Nashville, but I think Nashville showed they were the better team. So they've had an interesting past couple weeks with McKinnon and Bednar getting into it and getting Brassard and falling. Now they're on the outside looking in. So Kevin and I, had a few questions for Megan. So let's send it over there. And Kevin, have a great rest of your night, buddy.
You too, buddy.
Peace.